to.
Hello, this is John Hesse. I'd like to read to you from Wise Words by Peter Lythart. And the story is The Farmer's Treasure. A farmer was once plowing his field when the plow hit something buried in the earth. Pulling his horse to a stop, the farmer knelt to examine it. He dug until he uncovered a round, hard object. When he had pulled it from the ground, he rubbed the top with his shirt until he could see he was holding a golden globe that shone like the sun. Leaving his horse and plow in the field, the farmer rushed back to his small cottage to show his wife, who stood at the stove stirring soup. "Look! Look!" the farmer shrieked as he crashed through the door. "I found it in the field." Startled by her husband's cries, his wife dropped her spoon into the soup. Her apron caught the handle of the kettle, and when she turned around, soup spilled over the kitchen floor. "Now look at what you made me do," she said angrily. "Why did you come in here screaming like a madman?" Too excited to speak, the farmer held up the globe. Even in the dim light of the kitchen, it seemed to glow. The farmer's wife stopped in the middle of a sentence and stared in wonder, holding it as gently as a wounded bird. The farmer set the globe on the kitchen table, while his wife found a rag to clean it. After a few minutes of scrubbing, she stepped back. Neither had ever seen anything like it before. They thought it must be something from a king's palace, although they'd never been close to a king's palace. The globe sat on a small platform. The gold on the top half was as bright as a slice of the sun. Set in the gold were jewels that sparkled like stars, and carved birds so white they looked like chips of the moon. The bottom half was dark green, covered with colorful paintings of strange animals, trees, and flowers. The platform was deep blue, decorated with fish and porpoises. "It's a world," the farmer gasped. "Yes, and it's all ours," his wife answered. For hours, they sat examining every detail of the globe. When it was almost midnight, they agreed they would sell it to the jeweler. They would then have enough money to build a big new house in town, and they would never again have to rise before the sun to milk the cow, never again sweat in the fields through a long, hot afternoon, never again lose a night's sleep looking after a mare giving birth. Their miserable little lives with their miserable little duties would be gone forever. They would live like a king and a queen. Neither the farmer nor his wife got any sleep that night. Before the sun had risen the next morning, they were out of bed and dressed. The farmer harnessed his horse to the rickety carriage and set the globe, carefully wrapped in a sheet, on the seat. When they got to town, the farmer tucked the globe under his arm and went to see the jeweler. His wife walked up and down the streets looking in shop windows. The jeweler's shop was not open. After the farmer banged on the door 10 or 20 times, a pointed face peeked through the curtain window. "Read the sign," came a squeaky voice. "Not open till 9. Come back then." The pointed face disappeared. The farmer banged again. "Please, I have something valuable. I want you to look at it." "Come back at 9, answered the squeaky voice. "Of course I could go to the jeweler's shop on the other side of town," the farmer said in a loud voice as he turned to go. Behind him, the farmer heard the lock turn and the bell on the door jingle. The jeweler stepped out wearing a striped nightshirt. Come in, he said. "Won't hurt to get an early start today." Inside the shop, the farmer put the globe on the table and slowly unwrapped it. The jeweler picked it up carefully. He pinched a pair of glasses on his thin nose and looked closely. When the jeweler said, it sounded like a mouse snoring. "Very heavy. Can see why you are in such a hurry to see me." He held his ear close to the globe and shook it. "Well," the farmer was impatient, "is it gold? Is it worth something? How much will you pay for it? Have to look at it very carefully. Don't want to give you the wrong answer." The jeweler smiled a sour-looking smile. "Come back next month. We'll tell you what I think." The farmer's heart sank. "Next month? Can't you tell me sooner?" The jeweler shook his head, still smiling his sour smile. "Then I will have to come back next month," the farmer said sadly. When the farmer got back to the carriage, he found his wife surrounded by packages, wrapped in red, green, and yellow paper. "What's all this?" the farmer demanded. "Oh, just a few dresses, a few hats, a few new pairs of shoes, a few new pairs of shoes," the farmer exclaimed. "You've never had more than one pair of shoes before." "That is true, husband, but now we are going to be rich. Remember, the world is ours." She giggled like a child. "I told the merchants we would be able to pay them soon, very soon." She giggled again. "Well, perhaps you're right," the farmer sighed, "but no more shopping, at least for a month." The farmer told his wife what the jeweler had said. "Oh, you silly," his wife said. "That just means we'll have to wait another month to be rich." The month passed slowly. Neither the farmer nor his wife could think of anything but the globe of gold. The farmer spent his morning sitting on the front porch of the cottage, dreaming about how everyone would watch and envy as he strutted through town in a fine suit on his way to lunch with the mayor. In the afternoon, he sat at a table drawing pictures of his new house, being careful to include servants' quarters and rose gardens. He sketched a picture of his new carriage with leather seats. With a thick pencil, he scratched numbers on every corner of his paper, figuring how much he could afford to spend on the best food and drink once he was rich. His wife dreamed of watching a maidservant set the table with silver spoons and real china dishes. She'd never seen real china, at least not up close, so she had to imagine what it would look like. She thought of gossiping with the other elegant ladies of the town. She saw herself telling witty jokes that made the other ladies twitter in their teacups. Meanwhile, the animals in the barn were left unfed. The plow was still sitting in the field where the farmer had left it the day he found his treasure. The vegetable garden was overgrown with weeds. It was not that the farmer did not notice, it just did not matter any longer. Not now that he was going to be rich. When the month was over, the farmer and his wife went back into town. The jeweler was sitting behind his counter when they came into the shop. "Ah, you're back," the jeweler said in a voice filled with what sounded like pity. "What have you found out?" the farmer asked. "Some bad news, some good news. The globe is not made of gold, made of lead. The gold, only the cheapest paint. The jewels, bits of colored glass. The white birds, carved from the most common stone. The globe is worth almost nothing." The farmer staggered as if he had been hit on the head with a shovel. He did not have to imagine what this was like, since it had happened to him more than once. "You said there was good news?" His voice sounded strange in his own ears. Yes, the good news." The jeweler stopped for a moment so that his next words would sound very important. It takes great effort, you see, to sound important when your voice squeaks like a mouse. "Seen globes like this before. Very clever. Outside, worth little, but hollow inside. Maybe something valuable inside." "Then open it!" the farmer shouted. Easier said than done. No keyhole. Secret opening. Cannot help you. Take it to locksmith. Without even a thank you to the jeweler, the farmer grabbed the globe and dashed out the door, leaving his wife standing open-mouthed at the jeweler's counter. He raced across the street and was inside the locksmith's shop before the bell on the jeweler's store had stopped its jingling. "Can you open this?" he asked breathlessly. The locksmith wiped his broad face with a fat hand. "Pray tell, how do you know it opens?" "I don't, not really. The jeweler told me it might." "Ah." When he said "ah," he sounded like an elephant yawning. "I've heard of these kind of things, yes. They were first used by emperors of China to hide secret papers, official documents, and so forth. Or was it Japan? India, perhaps. In any case, I've read many times about such things. Yes, the concept, the idea is very familiar to me." "I do believe it was Japan after all." "Well, please open it," the farmer said impatiently. "Oh, I'm quite afraid that will take me some time. I've never, you understood, actually seen such an object. Till just now, of course. if in fact this is such an object. But it will take me some time and effort. I will have to examine. How long? Come back in a month, and I will see what I can do. It does look Japanese if you ask me. Disappointed, the farmer returned to his carriage. He told his wife what the locksmith had said. Then we will have to wait another month to become rich, she said. I am certain there must be something very valuable inside that globe. The next month passed even more slowly than the first. The farmer still could not keep his mind off the globe. He spent his mornings wondering how it might open, his afternoons wondering what might be inside, and his nights wondering what life would be like when he became rich. Unplowed fields went unplanted. Chickens starved to death. The garden vegetables were choked out by the weeds. His wife began to bake their bread from wheat they'd been saving for the winter. When the month was over, the farmer and his wife returned to town to see what the locksmith had discovered. A bright smile crossed his face when they entered his shop. Wonderful news, he said in a booming voice. I have consulted my books and found many examples of this kind of a treasure box. As it turns out, they were used in China, Japan, and India. All three. Although they seem to have first been used in, what is the wonderful news? Why, I've opened the globe. The locksmith's face gleamed with a proud smile. And the farmer and his wife said together, and oh yes, this was inside. With a flourish, the locksmith held up 2 shiny red apples. They looked fresh and inviting, as if they had been just picked from a tree. Is that all? The farmer's wife asked. Are they made of gold? The locksmith laughed loudly. No, ma'am, they're made of apple. The farmer and his wife sadly turned to go. By the way, don't eat those 2 apples, they heard the locksmith say as the door closed behind them. They look fine, but they might be poisonous. In Japan, the objects inside these treasure boxes were sometimes deadly. That is what the research shows. As the farmer rattled over the road back to the cottage, the farmer's wife began to laugh. What are you laughing about? The farmer asked angrily. I know I'm a fool, but please don't laugh at me. Oh, my dearest husband, his wife answered, hardly able to contain herself. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing because I know why those apples were in the globe. And why might that be? The farmer asked. Why, they must be magic apples, his wife answered. Don't give me that look. You don't really believe that locksmith, did you? What does he know about apples, or treasure boxes, or anything for that matter? Why else would anyone put apples into that globe unless they are magic? And how could apples stay so fresh in that thing for so long? Maybe they'll make us live forever. Or maybe they'll make us rich. Or maybe they'll grant us 3 wishes. Or maybe when we eat them, everything we touch will turn to gold, like old King What's-His-Name. Who knows? Maybe we can still have the world after all. The farmer did not believe it at first, but the more he listened, the more sense she made, and she finally convinced him. When they got home, she sat down at the kitchen table with the apples between them. The farmer's wife took the largest apple, cut off a slice with a knife, and ate it. It's delicious, she said. Try some. Then she gave some of the fruit also to her husband with her, and he did eat. 3 days later, 4 men came to door at the farmer's house. The tailor, the cobbler, and the hat maker were coming to collect money for the dresses, shoes, and hats the farmer's wife had bought. The other man owned the land where the farmer lived, and he was coming to collect the rent, which had been unpaid for months. The farmyard was lifeless. In the barn, the horses and cows were as thin as skeletons. When the men knocked at the door, there was no answer. When they pushed it open, they saw the farmer and his wife slumped over the kitchen table, dead. Between them on the table were 2 half-eaten apples. The moral is from Proverbs 12, verse 11. He who works his land will have abundant food, but he who pursues fantasies lacks judgment. Thank you very much, and glad to be able to share this story with you. Bye.